All right. Okay. Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me on a
Morning.
weekend on a Sunday. Like Eddie, just right off church. Uh, from church, we go into first impressions.
Wait, wait.
So the title for today is First Impressions in Products: How to Impress. So this is based on my own personal curiosity, as my work, I guess, is also into designing products and all that. So I guess I've always been curious and sort of I can only do that much reading. I think listening to people would be a lot better as well. So I would like to try to observe patterns of how you guys have made impressions on different products. Sorry, how products have made different impressions on you, and then we'll see what is the pattern, and then we'll talk about how do you think we can impress people if we do product design. All right. So I guess my first question would be based on your experience across your whole life. It could be when you're in your childhood. It could be now, or it could be very very recent stuff as well. What are some of the impressional products you can think of, and then open to sharing with us if you want to show us as well. Anyone would like to start first? Shiranjit, let's go with you first, lah. If you already have something.
I was about to call him out.
I was, I was about to call AD. Hmm.
Oh, sorry, sound is my fan blowing in the background.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
For me, I couple of product websites come to my mind immediately when I think about first impressions, because when I started my career back few years, um, what are the websites? Websites like Apple's website, and recently how Microsoft revamped their website. Then websites of some fashion magazines like Vogue. Those websites kind of gives a good example for me where I see that okay, when they look at their customers, they try to give that impression, whether consciously or unconsciously. It's very evident for them. So when I looked at Apple website a couple of years back, first time, I felt like, wow, it's so minimal, but at the same time, it gives a impression of elegance at the same time. And when I looked at Vogue, it gives it's like it's niche, like we are different from others without saying much about them. When I looked at their side, that's what I got an impression of that. And let me share the screen. Oh,
So you mentioned things like minimal, and then from the website itself, you can already tell that their strategy is they want to project the fact that they are unique. Is it?
yeah, correct.
Okay. We'll dive deeper into the unique word later. Are you trying to share screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay.
It's- hmm. Can you see this?
Yep.
So
Aloha.
this is yeah.
Aloha.
So this is one of the Hawaiian Airlines their site. So in this in a site like this, what will you try to do? It's generally related to the airlines altogether. It's must. So they have given the QR code upfront, so you can scan and start
Mhm.
uh, win a flight to Hawaii and etc. So it's very straightforward what they want you to do in this. So it doesn't distracts me much. So that's what I like about the site. And then there is this another site. Let me say this. Yeah, this
Yeah.
one is again that like that elegance. I see that minimalism all here. So
Mm.
it's a interior decor site, and what they're showing their product upfront. There is no fuss around here that oh you can do this or can giving you what you will be wanting from an interior decor or a architect or a furniture website product company. when you go down there, you have just few news and all. Then again, some I don't know the language.
Japanese, yeah, it's really
Yeah.
sleek. I love it. I love both of it. The Aloha one is very clean. I think Saf would have something to say because Saf is also like someone who loves like minimal look. It's so clean. It's just like an airplane, and then you know what the intention is. Yeah, Saf. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm looking at it now. Even though I do like minimal, it does seem like visually there's a need for something additional for me.
Mm.
What I've realized that to prepare for this podcast, I've kind of gone down memory lane and just kind of look back at, okay, what are the apps that I use? And there's a very clear pattern here. I could share it. Shall I share it now?
Yeah, can.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is one of the more recent ones that I've downloaded. One of the older ones that I've downloaded in the past is Pop Camera. And then Headspace. And then
Yeah, that space I like.
this is like Slow Growth Academy by Matt Diavella. And if you can see, I think like a very obvious pattern here is I'm into it being minimal, but there's just screaming pop of colors. And okay, so this is more of the digital space or like the digital softwares. And then I went down, okay, how about products, like material things? And one of the things that I recall as something I am completely enjoying now is all of this neon pop board games. So it's a specific edition, and I've bought, I think, 4 or 5 out of the whole set because of its colors. It just, there's something about aesthetics that's just, it pulls me into those products lah. I think that is how I see it being slightly different. Like I enjoy the minimal aspect of things, but I just need a pop of color, and especially neon. Yeah. Yeah, so
All
this
right.
one, yeah, I hate when he came out with this slow growth course or website platform, because when I looked at it, I'm like, this would be the aesthetic I describe as what I love, like black and white, and then you've got pop of neon. So I hate that you started it before I did. Yeah, it's like because there's a lot of like website drafts or blog drafts that I've done, which looks like this, is just not published. But yeah, I love this aesthetic.
Oh, sorry, hold on. You're scrolling. Let me show that again. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that would be the difference.
I like it. It's still very clean.
Yeah.
It's still clean. When are you posting yours then? Since you already have drafts, why not share it?
Oh, because there's no content. Like I'll be excited to build the frame, and then I do not post content. There's too many walls to go through to post the actual content.
That's fine. We'll look forward to it when you're ready. Okay, so we had Saf, just now you were sharing about Headspace and also Slow Growth Academy. You shared something else before that, the one with the like paper or something in the beginning.
Yeah, so Paper is more. I was searching for a journaling app.
Is that the brand?
And then Paper by WeTransfer. So Paper is the name of the app.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why I like, so there's a lot of journaling app, and I find that I was pulled into that one because it has this whole look and feel like you are opening up a journal. Because to go into different files, you are clicking on books essentially. So I feel like that whole experience was what pulled me in, and of course, the book covers were beautiful. Yeah.
Like your preferred style.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
Cool. Shiranjit, if you don't mind sharing the two links or the two brands that you were looking at just now in the chat with me as well, just for my notes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So that's Shiranjit and Saf, Van and Eddie. Whoever would like to go first, if you can give a quick introduction of yourself as well. You're new to this podcast, so to this conversation. So yeah, just give a quick introduction of yourself, and then let us know what's your impressionable products that you would like to share with us.
All right, I'll go first. What introductions really? My name, my age, ASL.
Anything that.
All right, so I'm Eddie Dio. You can call me Eddie, as most people do. I'm a software engineer. Working with these guys that you see here. I also do photography on the side. So it's a fun, serious hobby. Shiranjit is sort of my seafood, or my go-to guy for criticism. All right, yeah. So that's a little about me. So to go straight to answer to the first bit, which is impressionable products. So the first one is going to be, I'm going to highlight like one website that I really like. It's called WeTransfer.com. So paper by WeTransfer is, as Saf has already shared, but there's a main WeTransfer.com site. So we usually use that to share files. So it lets you upload files and then share it with someone else. Someone downloads it. But the thing is, when you go to the site itself, other than the transfer thing, there's a bit on the site that is sort of like how do I put it? Like a blog highlight thing. So if I share my screen, permit me to. So can you see my screen? Right. So this is WeTransfer.com. So you can see on the left panel here, there's basically where you upload your files and then share it. But while your file uploads, there's this thing on the right here that sort of highlights all of these links, these blogs, or featured blogs, featured reading, and it's very artsy, which I like, and it changes after a couple of minutes. So I think I like it because sometimes I just go into transfer files, but then this thing draws my attention, and I end up spending some time just reading some of this stuff, because I think it's the way it's presented that just sort of inspires me to want to do something, like even if it's stuff that is not within my interests, but I end up still reading it because the way it's presented makes it look so artsy, so cool. And so basically you just click this and then it takes you to a page where you read whatever it is, and it just keeps changing. And it's very interesting. It's usually very interesting blogs, very interesting articles.
I actually wanted to ask. So WeTransfer is it sort of like Dropbox, like a drive where you share files? Is it?
Yeah, it doesn't store files per se like Dropbox. It sort of just lets you share files.
It's like a Snapchat of Google Drive.
Yeah.
Then I guess my question is then, if that's the intention of the function of this website, what is the ones that they were sharing? Like, is this just artwork that they're trying to promote, or what?
So I guess they promote, like, I think what they do is they try to promote like upcoming artists, upcoming talent. What is it? Yeah, basically people in the arts. So I think that's the impression I'm getting. I get the impression that this is a tool to promote people who are in the arts. So I accidentally clicked on that link. So it goes to a site like this where you can read about about this very interesting looking thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So it has a way of just getting your attention and saying, hey, while you upload your file, there's this thing that's really cool that you could go through and browse through. And yeah. So I quite enjoy it when I go to this site because I always end up reading a thing or two.
Yeah, that's really good. For me, it threw me off a little bit because I thought that the function was mainly for like transferring files, but then at the same time they associated themselves with like promotion of this kind of artwork. So I find that too a bit throwing me off a little bit. So I'm like, oh, okay, actually, is this a file transfer website or is this like a art promotion stuff? I guess it could be both.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't use the word promotion per se. Maybe it's like a
art exhibit website, isn't
it? No, not really.
Yeah.
I guess it's just a feature, like a place where people are featured, where artists are being featured in a way.
Yeah.
But I get your point. It sort of deviates from the main function of it. But then again, if you look at it, the function of it is just to go in and upload a file.
Yeah.
So I guess this sort of keeps you on the site as well and brings extra value to the site. I feel it brings extra value to the site for me.
I guess
I don't know if you've seen this site before, like a couple of years back, maybe 2013 or 2014. WeTransfer was not like this. It was slightly different. But over the period, like I think it's like last 2 or 3 years, they've made it in this way. I like that fact that their main core task is quite clear and they don't need you to log in or sign up or do any registration. You can just go ahead, put an email ID and whom you want to transfer, put there. Simple as that. But at the same time, when that transfer happens, they have added a value for the customer that they just don't look at a blank screen, okay, it's transferring. Instead, they give something else so that it creates an interest to see something when the transfer is still going on.
Yeah.
I like that fact about that.
Yeah.
It does seem like the WeTransfer ecosystem is looking at different art-based projects, because I think the app Paper is also now bought over by them or something like that, because it used to belong to some other company and now it's under WeTransfer. And you can see there they are promoting the arts and artists through their book covers or just journals that you could download and follow to learn about art.
Yeah,
they might be trying to keep their existing user base, and putting some content there for the users of WeTransfer, which I think that art is like the reason why it is there, and not really maybe targeting new users into the website.
Yeah, I was just thinking that as you're transferring files, that it makes you have the impression of like, oh, is this brand also going to help me feature some of my work? Perhaps if assuming you're like uploading or sharing your own artwork, your own products online, and then you can actually have a space to feature that as well. This brand might help you. And then at the same time, as you're transferring, you might need to wait, right? And then having that function of like, you as you're waiting, would you like to check out all these things as well? Is I think kind of cool. I think once you get that association, it makes sense.
I think I'm interested to understand, how did Eddie come across WeTransfer? Like, how did you get there? Was it for practical reasons or did you bump into it?
Right. Oh, so this actually knew this from church because I'm part of the media team. So usually when we, after like a Sunday service, we'd have a recording of the sermon, and then we would have to transfer the recording files to like to another team that sort of compiles it into like a proper into messages like CDs and all of that. So we used to use WeTransfer to just get that file, send it over to the team that handles the recordings and everything. So that's how I got to know about WeTransfer. And the great thing was that you don't have to sign up, right? All you just have to do is select a file, the email of the person you want to send it to, your own email, and an option to add a message if you want to, and that's it. So the person on the other side receives a link on their email to download the file that you just sent to them, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. So you don't have to create an account and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I relate that very much with some of our products that we use on our phone. For example, when you want to call someone on your phone, that app that itself is an application already. But the elegance of that application is just makes you do that one thing very well instead of making anything out of that. And about WeTransfer, I find that one really good. And there are very few applications or websites that do that very well. Like you pick one journey that user wants to do, achieve it, and do it very, very well. That's what they did. And then on top of it, if you just add something, that is a value addition for the users. Otherwise, how else will WeTransfer differentiate themselves from someone like, I want to set my files using Google Drive, or I want to set share file using OneDrive. There are many ways I can do that.
Yeah. I agree with that. Sometimes I do find myself in some sites where I want to do something, and then I'm asked to sign up, and I'm like, why do I have to sign up? And then I end up leaving. Because I don't want to give my information to one more website that I'm not going to use once a year.
Yeah, on top of all the 100 other websites that you've already signed up to.
Yeah, so I think that's that removing that need to sign up is quite valuable, and it's something that would make you go back to that site.
That's very, very interesting, because like all of you guys seem to be showcasing minimalist design, right, of a website and of a product.
In a way, some stuff that just lets you do what you want to do.
I think mine is a little bit different. So as you know, my name is Ven. I'm an application developer, and I am a like UI UX enthusiast, I would say. I came across with these, came about into like my mind the UI UX things when I was like in the uni days, because like one project is to make an application, a website application, and then a research, like what are the trends, the tips and tricks, are the best trends in when was that, 2007 2008, that time, and what are the websites that make you look stand up. So that is like, to me, is like just a project. So I came across these terms, Web 2.0, and then I was like, oh, why is it already Web 2.0? Oh, there's also like a Web 1.0. So it made me think of the patterns that what the web designs are in that time, and what the web designs are at this time, and like what were then before I came across the Web 2.0. So I researched a bit and understand like, oh, actually what Web 1.0 is just to there is not much content or interactions from the users, but the websites themselves provide content, like static content for consumption only, and we don't have anything else for that. So one example that I can share is this. This, if you all can see, this is a basic 1.0 website. So it's just basic content and links, right? It doesn't have any interaction. Users that are viewing this doesn't have anything to do, just to read the content and consume the content. Now came into Web 2.0, where the goal was, actually, I don't know who these guys decide when is Web 1.0, when is like Web 2.0, but the participants, the users themselves becomes a participant. Or like, remember when we first started joining Facebook, it's all about the timelines or like the statuses, right, of the user. So interaction comes into mind. And then maybe also this part here, a Web 2.0, I would say, where it not only becomes a content for consumption, but also an interaction, because you have comments there from the users, right, that are interacting into your blog or like into your website, that engages everyone and that encourages everyone to look at your website or look up your product or on the content that you're presenting in front. May it be a blog, may it be an e-commerce, right, or may it be a product that you're sharing for like an Apple, because they also have like a customer service right in front in the apple.com, right? So you have that interactions and in the community. So I think that is like the Web 2.0, and that these were the ones that when I was in uni, these were the ones that stood out to me, because at that time it's already there. I mean, it's already set up. The websites, the web designs are set up like this. Now comes to like Web 3.0, which is the next big thing for World Wide Web, is something like this. We all know and we all use Facebook, but I think it also is the same as when we use Twitter. So at a glance, it looks like the same as the Web 2.0, where you interact with the content that is presented to you, but most of the things happen in the background. As you can see, all the things that presented into my screen are the ones that I follow. This is basically like a curated content specifically to the user who is viewing the website. So I think that is the Web 3.0, and the goal of that is your data, your content that you uploaded into the cloud, you presented into the cloud, you say like, oh, I'm okay with adding all my data, putting it into the cloud. Those content become like a part of a global content where everything is interconnected and intercorrelated, and that data can mean something, right? So for example, like this is where the AI comes in, acknowledging that the data exists, validating what the data is, and then understanding how we can shape that data into something more meaningful. May it be like the data of the past cancer images, like that, those images of what a cancer looks like, feeding into AI, and then understanding the trends and the patterns, and then solving how to treat cancer at the early stage. So I think that is where we are going for the Web 3.0, and that is something that struck to me at this time, at this age. So it's like curating data for your own consumption and like for a meaningful usage. So
So these are the things that attracts you or interests you, then
yes,
the workings behind different things.
yes, not really just forward facing, but also the reasoning why it gets presented in front of you.
That's interesting to observe. So, so your first impression built from the first round of websites that you were looking at, which is more information transfer, information sharing, and then because of that first impression, you were actually stuck with that kind of concept to then go into observing how information transfer has grown into including things like interaction and participation to hook people and engage people even longer in the same kind of product. Yeah, that's quite interesting. But the ones that you were sharing mainly were like blogs, and the last one was Twitter, right? Okay, all right. Everyone has very different. They're very different kind of designs.
No, I really like
What's
how
yours, Joey?
presented it.
Yeah, Shiranjit, yes, you were saying.
Yeah, so I liked how Rain presented it now about his first impression. because this is also something happens during the impression buildup. The way you present your product, the way you tell the audience, that also creates an impression for something about you and about the product. For example, each of us, when we went one by one, we just said our screen and then we started talking about that. But instead of that, what Zain did is he actually came up with how that impression was built. He first gave the context a little bit and then he started sharing and that. So this is very interesting because this is like a storytelling technique which I see Wayne is very good at because he's also a blogger.
I okay. Priorities change, my friend. So yeah, slowly not making editing videos since last year because also of COVID situation.
Yeah. But why I mentioned is because when we say impressions, it is dealing with many psychological aspects in a room where you are presenting, and sometimes it's about impression when you are going for a new job interview, or impression about when you are showing your clients about your, like for a fund you want to go and show the clients and there are some new clients in there. And then there is this impression where you launch your first product into the market, like as a first organization, a new company, the startup, you want to introduce a completely new solve. So in every cases the impressions are different and the way audience see you is different. In case of users, when you build a product, there are two different ways you can build. One is there are two type of users in the market you see distinctly two. One is they're unaware about the problems that they have, and so they don't know what solution they need because they don't know what problem they're facing. And then there is another set of users who are very much aware what their problem have, and for that reason they look for specific solutions for that. So in that regard, when you are going ahead and giving a user your product, and if that user is unaware about their problem, even if your solution is elegant, it's awesome, super, everything, they will say like, what are you showing me? Why do I need it? So in that case, your impression buildup will start from first educating them why they need your product. But in case of the other set of users who are already knowing what problems they're facing, so they're already in search of those solutions, and then you show them that, oh, this is the solution that will solve your problem. So they will immediately understand some of those aspects. Oh, okay, this will solve my problem. Let's experiment it. I'm seeing just myself. Okay.
Interesting. Adrian, you're muted.
I said putting Shiraji in the spotlight since he has such good opinions.
Oh, it feels a little bit weird after sometimes looking at me talk.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So I
some.
just lost the trail of my thought after that.
Mm-hmm. True. That's some good points. I went on a different path. Perhaps it shows my personality as well. I went with something more physical product, so a toy. So I accidentally shared it just now as Ben was talking. So this is the most recent impressionable product that I got my hands on. It's called Labyrinth. So it's a board game. I like, I don't really collect board games, but I like the fact that board games help me engage my guests when I'm hosting at home. And it will usually take up half an hour, 1 hour. You know, it keeps people engaged after dinner when people are already kind of like trailing off, whatnot, and then it keeps the energy quite high in the room, I think. So this board game is simple. It's just basically mazes, and then if you see the different tiles, the tiles can move vertically or horizontally. So then what you need to do is just keep moving the whole thing, keep moving the maze until you can get to your goal. So your goal is to collect the treasures, which is represented in the cards on the bottom left. So then everyone will play a different color. And then what you need to do is basically just create the pathway towards your treasure, wherever it is. So it'll be indicated on the icons on each tile. So So for me, I thought this was simple, very simple to use. Just keeps things fun, very straightforward as well. So there's only like what Shiranjit was mentioning just now. It does only one thing perhaps, but it does it well for me, I feel lah. And then there's like what Saf was saying, things that are colorful is there. So there's pops of colors to engage you. Yeah, so I feel like it's simple to use, but what I realized was like for most of the board games that you buy, it would always come with a manual. So you actually have to learn how to use it unless someone teaches you how to play. So basically you would need support somehow. So I think support was kind of crucial for most of the games that you are playing with. That said, I was also looking at this. So another simple version of a game. This is the Congkak. I think you have this in the Philippines as well.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. So, but the interesting thing about Congkak is usually when you buy it, it actually doesn't really come with a manual, and it has always been like sort of passed down through generations kind of thing. But again, what you can't miss is the person or the support, whether it comes in a paper manual or whether it comes in a person, someone needs to tell you how to play the game. So for me, the first impression is that it's easy to use, but also the fact that it needs to come with someone else or something else that supports you as well. So I guess it just brings people together, the whole intention. So I was just thinking about physical products somehow rather than websites.
Interesting.
It's really quite interesting because I think it depends on our personalities and how we understand we came in here understanding having just like a statement of what we're gonna be talking about, and like to us, I mean three out of 5 of us, 4 actually, just 4, right? Because I've also presenting websites, thought of product as like a digital content, right? A digital a product itself, and then here we are, Juwin, presenting like a physical product. It's really quite fascinating to see, witness the understanding what products means to each of us, you know.
Yeah,
Actually,
correct.
I did want to highlight the physical products, but
What do you want to show?
interest of time, and also it's very cliche, so I just like, okay, I'll just focus on the digital.
Sure.
Come on, share it.
Oh, okay.
I
A
love
physical product a physical product that I really like is my MacBook Air.
Oh, okay.
Okay. No.
No, really. I mean, this has to be my 4th computer, and I don't think any other computer phone has hooked me so much that the next computer I'm thinking of buying is another MacBook Air, like the other MacBook Air. Because I think it's just really convenient. Okay, let's start from the fact that it's paper light, which means I can go with it anywhere I want. Sometimes I want to go on a trip and I don't need my computer, but I just feel the need to bring my MacBook Air along. Sometimes I want to go to the office and I know I'm not going to use my MacBook Air on that day, but it just feels like, I need to bring it along because it's just that easy to bring along. And then let's talk of the Mac usability as well. Like before I got this, I was on Windows and everything. And when I made the shift to Mac, after like 1 week, I was like, man, I never knew I needed so much ease. I never knew I needed so much, ease of use in my life. You know, it's just really easy to. I mean, anyone who's used a Mac knows how easy it is to use that thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And you're not going to mention the aesthetics of this MacBook Air?
Oh, the aesthetics is it speaks for itself, so I don't need to. But yeah, I'm not an Apple fanboy in any way, but just this particular product is something that I really, really love. Yeah.
So you do not have an iPhone?
No, I don't. I don't have any other Apple device, just this one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And it is the love of your life.
Kinda, yeah.
I think I remember one time that Eddie and I went out of town with friends on a beach, and there you have your MacBook.
And I had my MacBook Air, right?
What was he doing with it?
I don't know. I just always bring it along.
Feel of need to bring it because maybe something will happen, and MacBook Air maybe something that can be useful.
He's so much in love with MacBook Air.
I guess when you're in need to self-defense, you can also use the MacBook Air to like hit somebody in the head.
It's aluminum. You can put-
Yes, bro. It is that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I got everyone to share. I think I was kind of like looking forward to everyone sharing different views. That's why I guess before we add, I also mentioned like the impressionable products they can share could be things like toys, could be things like something physical, anything from your childhood perhaps. So like what I remember was like Polly Pocket when is it
Oh
Polly
my
Pocket?
god!
When we were
How
kids.
is that
You know, things like
possible? I was on a Polly
yeah, so
Pocket
things like you
search
can still
before
remember
we-
until now. Yeah. You played the same thing stuff?
I love Polly Pocket, and I was on a search for the vintage Polly Pocket this past 2 weeks. So for you to mention it, it's completely bizarre.
Yeah, it is. So it's impressionable, I guess, because it was building on your imagination when you were young. So I don't know whether you guys play this kind of stuff as well. It's like Lego, right? You can build anything you want, and then you can just make stories out of it. And it just helps spurs your creativity when you were young. And these are the stuff that you need to occupy yourself, because how many adults can keep reading storybooks and story tells you, and sometimes you have to just occupy yourself. So, and it's things like that is still impressionable, and it stays with you, and you remember that as a very good memory from childhood. Not sure whether you guys have Lego as well. I had from the bigger bricks, because you were a toddler, you can't really hold stuff, to like the freaking small ones where you have to build, like submarines, whatnot, very, very dainty little stuff. But it would still occupy you even in adulthood right now. So I think for me that is a very impressionable stuff. And somehow there's no need for a lot of manual to teach you how to use Lego. You know that things come together somehow. I don't know. What about you guys? What do you think?
I didn't use Lego, but I had a different way of learning those things. The toys that were bought for me, I used to break them and then see how they're functioning inside.
Oh yes. Like
And then
cooking my Nintendo
those
tapes.
parts, yeah, and then took those parts and put something else on top of it and see how it works. Like there was this aeroplane that was bought for me, and then ripping it apart, all the outside one, and because it still moves, like how it is moving, I was so curious, like, how is it moving? It is having wheels and everything, that's fine, and I just put the battery inside and it's moving. Now what is going on? At that time I don't know about those electronics, electricity and everything, nothing I know. So the next step was rip it apart, and then okay, it moves because of this engine. I don't know how it is inside, how is it working inside, but I knew that because of that engine particularly, it's moving. So then I tried to put some like I used to use the cardboards, then make it in shape of something else like a rocket, or sometimes in form of a car, put it on that top, and then make something in completely different from that what it was originally. So yeah, I think that's how I was learning stuff.
All right, cool. So everyone has shared like a bunch of stuff as well. And then the latest one seems to go in line into things that prompt curiosity or imagination. So based on all the stuff that we have shared, have you guys observed any particular pattern, or what were the impressions that you got from everyone else sharing their products? First impressions that you have found, or like a certain observation that you have noticed across all these products.
People like things that work for them. But second is people like things that immediately captures what they are looking for. Yeah, those are the two main highlights, and that is very common across all of us that I see. Whether it's Ben who is liking about how the backend works, and also he is more interested on those things, and for staff, C is more interested about those. It's so different. It's
the colors, I think the colors are popping out.
Yeah. Colors are popping, correct.
think to me, the what do you call that? The thing that is present in all these products, may it be digital or maybe physical, is the engagement piece. How you are drawn to the product itself for you to use and keep using. So it's the engagement. So one thing that strikes you and like draws you to the product is the colors, definitely, and that intrigues you into what is this product, and then you try to to use it, and then that sparks your curiosity on using the product, and then like realizes, oh, this how actually you will work and how you will use it. So it's like, yeah, the case of the airplane toy, and the chungka, and then engagement and interaction, and then like a community built on top around it. So it's like your parents or your friends from ancestors. It's like from people who know how to use the product, telling you, sharing to you how to use it. Yeah. So it goes in both physical and like digital products. I think that's me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think I realized that it rarely, for me personally, it rarely comes from a practical need. If it does, once the problem is solved, I ditch the product. So it's like, say for example, apps on the phones, I would download it. Okay, if I have to scan a paper into a PDF, yeah, and then I uninstall. But for the ones that are still there, it's the motivation for it would usually be something far from its practical need. Like it could be I'm interested in photography. That was why I wanted to download Pop Camera. But why Pop Camera specifically was because it engaged me in its look and feel. It was just super cool, and it felt like it represented who I was. And it seems like I'm attracted to those kind of things, whatever represents me in its colors, in its design, then that will be kept. But for practical things, I use it and then bye bye. Like none of it will be, savored or kept. So previously I used to describe things I like or things I would purchase by saying I will only buy things I'm in love with. Like there's this emotional connection to it. Only then I make a purchase. But now after a long while, I've been able to kind of understand what the motivation is. Like the aesthetics pleases me. It just makes me happy, makes me want to just engage in it. I think like when Van described engagement, that made sense, that term. Really, it is engagement. It might not be showing me anything, but the colors engages me. So it was interesting to see that. And it goes into my practical needs as well. So if I am looking for something practical, I would sacrifice 2 steps of practicality because of aesthetics. But of course, I wouldn't go down the extreme of impracticality. Yeah, but I wouldn't buy something just because it's practical. That's, I wouldn't, because I don't know where it would fit in my life.
All right, Eddie, any thoughts or any observation?
Yeah, I'm gonna toe the line of engagement as well. I think that is one thing that I saw that's really that was repetitive across the board. Basically, uh, things that evoke some things that evoke emotions in us. It could be something that makes you nostalgic. It could be something that inspires you. It could be stuff that makes you want to get up and do something new. So for Saf, colors, neon colors, for example, really draw her in. For me, showing me stuff about the arts, photography, and all of that stuff, really evokes something in me that makes me want to find out more. So basically, anything that engages you, and for different users, it's different from each user. But that's the one common theme I can see across all of our discussions. That, anything that sort of engages you,
All
or
right.
sort of evokes some sort of emotion.
Okay. I don't know whether I'm just obsessed with acronyms, whatnot. from what I list out that you guys mentioned, products that leaves an impression are products that makes you feel safe. SAFE. S as in it brings in social elements. So it would be you, someone else telling you how to do it. It brings people together, allow people to participate, for example. So like what Ben was mentioning, commenting. So it brings a social element in. So that's S. A, aesthetics, because Saf was mentioning things like colors. You guys were looking at it as well. So whether it's clean, whether it's colors, whether it pops, whatever it is, it's all the aesthetics that brings you together. F, functionality. So some people go for practicality, as in like because I need to transfer a file, so you can use it. So for stuff as well, for example, you have something you want to do, and then you get it first. So functionality, whether or not it lasts long, that's another question. But functionality would also be one of the core stuff that brings you to that particular product. And then lastly is engagement. So engagement is slightly different, and it could be slightly different than social. So engagement could be on your own. You need to engage it personally. So like what Eddie was mentioning, things that evokes emotion, things that has emotional connection, as what Saf was mentioning. So it needs to be able to inspire you. Basically, engagement would be like to yourself, I guess. Yeah. So that was what I noticed. It makes you feel safe. Yeah. So that's interesting to observe. Anyone would like to add in? Is there anything else I missed?
There are deeper elements though, but not what. There are far deeper elements than those that we cannot cover in this.
Not cover. What else?
Yeah, you could discuss, or you could go quite deep in this.
Yeah, I thought of the question of like your third question was, so what do you think are the key things to bear in mind when designing products, right?
Yeah.
So it's thinking of the question, if we were to ask ourselves, what are the real motivation behind using a product? So I shared with you Paper by WeTransfer, but really my real motivation is not that I wanted to start journaling. It was really, I wanted to make more use of my iPad, for example.
All right.
You know, like the real intentions behind this may not be as obvious as it is. So I wonder how that looks like to be in the background and think about those motivations in that way. Like you say, for example, the app is about wanting people to start learning, right? But how do you think about the intentions that may not be about learning? It's like almost trying to go against what is very straightforward and natural. You want to have an app to promote learning, so you think about learning needs, but actually it's, you know, the intentions are even beyond that. And I think that conversation is usually hard to have because it takes retrospective metacognition and really understanding people at its basics and not at its surface. And I think that is a very curious topic for me.
And it reminds our conversations in the earlier days when we were working.
Our conversation and fights. I wanted engagement in my app. I didn't know the word engagement, but that is what I wanted from all the food.
I will not say that as a fight, but yeah, if you turn that, I really like those because those conversations actually triggers those intellectual spaces otherwise clouded with information from articles, medias, people saying this, books, and all. Because only when we question those things, then we start discovering things that are not shown upfront. Wherever you are reading, there will be product people saying that, oh, do it this way. If you do this way, there are 5 steps, and then it will be fine. Follow this framework. These design frameworks, if applied, then all will be fine. You know, that's a framework. It's not like a magic potion or something. You have to think how that framework should fit into. So there are different things. And coming to impression, it's like, it's not about self anymore. When you are trying to impress, it's always about the other person on the other side whom you are impressing. So when you are designing the product that as a designer, if I am designing this product, I should not be thinking about how I am feeling about the product. Because when I start thinking in that way, I am putting a bias in that product. And now everything that I decide, every pixels I push and every decisions I give, it will be driven by those opinions. And once you put in your personal opinions in a product, you are not making it for the end user, you are making it for yourself. Or else, if there are managers and you are just going ahead and just listening what they are suggesting, that opinion you're putting in, then what is happening? You are making the product for that manager as an end user, not for actual end user. So that is where it becomes important that different perspective people should be there when you are designing the products, whether it's a tech guy or whether it's a marketing person, because those different domains bring a perspective that other domains does not have at all. They're not expert in those domains. So when it architect comes in, they will think about those backend stuff, that how this product will work properly. They will highlight issues that other people cannot highlight them at all. They cannot think about those issues at all. And when it comes to aesthetics, a graphic designer will be able to say that, okay, see, if you use circles or triangle or square, it will evoke different emotions. Or if you use yellow and red, and if you combine them, it will give a different emotions. So those aesthetics will be called by them. They're expert in that. Now, if you bring in someone who is like a project manager or product person, they will give more of a business input, that will those things, whatever we are discussing, will that add value to business? So now when you go and present this product, it will be presented in different stages to different people. First of all, there will be a person, let's say the CEO of a company, or it will be someone else who will be funding the company. They need to see the product and approve if they want that product to be built or not. So you need to see if you can impress them. So in order to impress them, you need to know what are their likes, dislikes. You need to understand that person's motivations and everything. And then you need to think of the people who will be using it at the end. So that is why we do a lot of research before you put things in the developer's plate or the engineer's plate, when they will be thinking in terms of other deeper ends, how to build that, whatever you put forward. So, and when it comes to impression, it is, who is the person name? There is a psychologist known as Michel Solomon. So he highlighted that every impression that you have, generally it is done in first 7 seconds when you put it forward, just the 7 seconds. After that, whatever you do doesn't matter, because once you cross that 7 seconds, you cannot improve that any further. So that 7 seconds, the person who is looking at makes 11 decisions in that 7 seconds, our human mind. And that goes into like, depending on the education, for a person, it's education background, the aesthetics, the other aspects, are the environmental factors that has affected that, how it looks. Lot of different categories are there in that 11 different decisions that human mind will take. It goes for dating, if when a person is dating another person. It goes for a product. It goes for presenting yourself in front of a live audience. There, everywhere those 11 decisions are taken. And even some other universities, they also research that 7 seconds is a normal, but even they have seen that 83% of the time, the decisions about impressions are taken in 2 by 10th second. 2 by 10 seconds, those impressions are made. So that is why advertisers, what they will do to create those impressions, they will start the hoarding, banners, and all those things. They think of that because in those seconds, everything is done. And either it's built or it's finished.
Yeah, so good stuff. 7 seconds to make an impression. Would love for you to share if you have that article on from who? Michel Solomon, you were mentioning?
Solomon, yeah.
Yeah, would like to read further on that as well. Yeah, I guess as you were talking about that, I was thinking about when you say 7 seconds to make an impression, or even split second impressions. I was thinking about how teachers are assessing students in class, because I think sometimes it's also impression marking. So, when you ask a student a question, or even just bodily visual cues that you're getting from students, those are actually impressions as well. So from time to time, teachers are actually doing a lot of impression markings on students, but that is in the classroom. Sorry, we're talking about products right now. Anyone would like to add in anything else? So Ben, you were interested in UI UX. So now that you have listened to what Sharon was mentioning, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, I think the impression of presenting the content and making sure that in that 7 seconds, that split second, you're able to deliver the content that you want, right? So in that space, in that amount of time, how you think about how do I present everything, like the vision itself, or the mission of of my content, presenting it to you in that split second. So that
Uh,
is something that we have to think about if we want to design a product and we want to present a product and put the product in front of our consumers and the goal itself, right? And
yeah.
obviously it becomes a business, right? So like it is a business, so we have to make money out of it.
Correct. Correct. Actually, those what it means to create an impression is like you are making the person interested in what you are presenting. So you don't have to show everything upfront. It's about you have to create that hook that the person will say, "Okay, give me more." Then give me more. Then give me more. So first of all, the person needs to get an idea overall that okay, this person is reliable. Whatever the person is going to present me, I can accept it. So once you bring that person in that accepting mode, then you can deliver further messages. That's the entire intention about this impression building.
Yeah, I agree on that. It's like once I'm hooked, I would give, second and third chances to that product to show me what it can do. But if I'm not hooked, no matter how good that product is, like bye, I'll be closing that tab.
Yeah.
Eddie, why you mute yourself? Any thoughts?
Sorry. Yeah, I guess Ranjit has said it all. Yeah.
I guess
No,
yeah. So just now as Sheja was talking about all those things, and then Ben adding as well. So I was reflecting on our previous conversation about design. Sorry, a good design. Then you were talking about how a perfect design is something that you cannot take stuff out. You're mentioning, right? So it's already perfect if you cannot take stuff out. So if you take any stuff out, that it would be imperfect and then you cannot really use it again. But adding stuff on doesn't matter. You can add as much as you want because it's already perfect. Adding stuff on would then either go good or go bad. So yeah, so I thought, does it mean that if let's say you want to make the first impression, your MVP should already be sort of perfect? Then you can add different functions on it, but your first, so bringing on the stuff that you were mentioning before as well, as in like products should always start with doing specific stuff first, but do it well. You perfect the design for that specific function that you're trying to go for, or specific emotion that you're trying to go for. And then after that, you can build on top of it. But that first cut should be done well. Thoughts, anyone?
It is very interesting. Actually, it depends on the product and depends on your user base and who you are targeting to as a user or consuming your content. Um, I am work. I'm currently working in a virtual learning environment, the education space, right? So our main users are teachers and students. So how do you present that? How do you make your classroom digitalized virtually? So um, you will need all these classrooms. Your teachers assigning contents to students. These are assignments, quizzes, and all these things, exams. So these are a lot. There are a lot of features that a teacher could do virtually. Lesson plans, right? The teachers can take lesson plans, uh, content related mapping to the curriculum of an education space. Um, these quizzes, these assignments, these content learning that can you show and present in a class for the teachers. So for the students. So which one should you prioritize first? And that depends on your users. So in our case, it is definitely the learning content, the teaching and learning content. So we put it in front of the teachers that we have a high quality content that the teacher can already use, and it is already mapped in the curriculum that they can use for the students to teach something for the students. And then that builds up something like an upselling already of a product. So you already have that main product of a learning resource. Then what comes next is the assessment. So the teachers or our users would naturally be drawn into being curious on how our students is consuming our learning resource, and that's where assessment comes in, creating assignments, creating quizzes, marking them. So these are the secondary features that we are thinking next, right? So the main feature, MVP, would say, is the learning resource. We put that in front of our teachers and the students for their consumption. That also brings in the next batch of users that we will be having. So like the parents will be a really natural the next step that is naturally gonna be using our content because they're trying to support their kids, their students, into achieving the goal, the learning, right? So yeah, I think that's
Julian, looking at your question, our should the hook be already perfect as to what
Yeah,
it wants
what is
to
that?
deliver?
What does
I
that
think
mean?
I guess the idea, I guess,
So,
yeah. So like we were talking about how to make an impression, right? Then everyone keeps saying that, yeah, it needs to be based on the like Ben was talking about, based on the market that you're trying to cater to, correct? So the first thing you should, or is it the first thing? The first thing you should focus on is actually who is your the users that you're trying to cater to. Who are these people who are going to be using your stuff? So then if you, let's say you have 7 seconds to make an impression, does that mean that the hook should somehow already be perfect in the version that what Sharanjit was mentioning before? When the design is perfect, you shouldn't be able to take anything out from it already. Then after that, like what you said, so once you already have the hook, then you say, okay, give me more. What else can you do? Then you can add in different other functions.
I will like to add just a perspective from design. When it comes to design, there is no clear evidence where I can say that, okay, because of this we should do this. So what I say that how we generally approach in design, it's not about impressing anyone, or neither it is about expressing anything. Design is not about those two. Neither we try to impress, neither we try to express. What we try to do is communicate. Now, when we communicate certain things, then how it is perceived by the user is different. So that's where brand is created, or user experience is created. Those things comes later. But when we are designing, it is always about solving a problem on hand. And if it's not solving a problem, then it might be something it is communicating. It may be anything. Like, for example, a graphic designer may be communicating an idea just for provoking the media, provoking the people. That can be also considered as a design. So provocation may not be an impression, but it is like it can outrage people through provocation. But it's a design. You are trying to do it consciously because you want to do something, bring a change in the market, for example. So from design, and that's what. And when it comes impression, it is only a very it's like a tip of a needle completely. So that comes like when I'm going to a client and I have to deliver something so that I need to get the funding for my company. That's where I need to think of subtle things. For example, how do I look? How do I present myself? How my presentation deck looks, or my product is perfect or not. Those are the different things that we just see if it's good enough. So in the product market, we tell about MVP, but MVP is still a very prior stage of when you should show the product to the user. More of now, what is more important is the MLP, that is minimum likable product. If you're presenting a minimum viable product to the users, I don't think they will be liking it any much, because there will be many other aspects still that is missing in that. But if you want your users to actually like your product, that's where you can see it as an impression, your first impression for the users. So then you have to make your product minimum likable. For that, there are things that you can take, like for example, the aesthetics, the colors in that, or if it's minimum functionalities are there or not, the engagement, if it can build or not. So you use marketing so that the people initially gets on board, start trying the product. So those are the different things you do. But yeah, this is a design perspective, but there will be other perspective you can add on.
Yeah, I think it's not being perfect, but being perfect as in complete with features, but delivering a MVP. Yes, it would say what the MVP would look like, right? Like it's like an end-to-end journey of the user. What it is use is it the end-to-end user journey that is useful for our users, and we some if we somehow achieve that and achieve that engagement, then we win already, right? At the first stage.
I think I wanted to go back to the hook when talking about products and products being able to solve problems. From where I'm sitting, I usually see the product solving the problem and feeding the needs of the teachers. Say, for example, using the same example, but there is still that need to convince them to use it. I think this part is where the impression plays a big role. And again, using the example of providing content to the teachers solves the easeability of using tech because ready-made content, fast, secure, minimal time, those kind of things. But it is still not the biggest pull for the teacher. And so when I took a step back from today's conversation and reflection, I realized that that isn't their motivation. Their motivation is not to just get their job done. Like, I want to have a lesson plan, I want to have content for the lesson, I want to teach. Actually, teachers' intentions, majority of them is, I want to engage my students. And we always fall back to engage students in learning, but actually, teachers are performers. I want to entertain in my classroom and not just entertain my kids. I want to be entertained by what I'm entertaining. So then you kind of fall back into then what makes an impression of a product? Is it really the function and what it can do, or is it the beginning, gimmick? For example, why Kahoot versus all the other quiz tool, for example? Is it because it's just entertaining, the music, the colors, the shapes? I don't know. And then I think that is the impression because teachers are wanting to entertain, not really completing their task of teaching. I think in the beginning, I usually struggle with that. Like, I did not like trying to make training modules that had the objective of use this to engage students. I'm like, it has to be deeper than that. It has to have learning outcomes. But for some reason, we fall back to entertainment as the job to be done. It is the job to be done. And, after 4 years, I'm like, okay, I accept. It is true. Engagement is key here. So I feel like that is, the takeaway from today, like impression does come in that form, but it's not natural to get there, to like sit down and talk about how do we engage when we are so caught up with, we know these are their problems to be solved, but some of these things aren't problems. To be engaged is not necessarily trying to solve a problem. Yeah. Oh, the other thing is thinking that one impression could attract a whole human race. I don't think that's possible. It's almost like you have to know this is your majority, then you bank on it lah. Like the others would kind of come in different manner, but that impression is for the biggest group you're targeting. Because some
Yep.
people won't be engaged by what I'm engaged with.
Yeah, agreed. That's why there is such thing as capitalism, because there are so many things that can impress so many different people, because everyone has a very different preference. Hence, all these products out there in the world, everyone makes a little bit of impression. Although this 10 things does the same thing, but everyone gives different impression. Then you have different, circles of users and different circles of clients. Yeah.
My curiosity to ask another question, like, to build an impression, does whatever is building the impression needs to have a form, shape, aesthetics, anything? For example, can an impression be created in a way to hook a group of people to march towards your idea only? Just an idea. Can an idea be an impression builder itself? Can people just march towards you when you just share an idea and just you might look completely different, ugly or not at all good, whatever the perception of ugliness is, but can just a group of people, you say the idea, they will just, oh yeah, I do relate myself with that idea and just march. So that's the curiosity that I have in terms of building impression, because I see that in history there are many evidences where, like, people just march towards a person's going forward. They might not have even meet the person in person, but still then they just go ahead and go with the idea. Yeah. That's unanswered. I don't know.
I agree that it's. I think it's possible that people march towards an idea. I'm not gonna name drop. There are examples of. If you look back, yeah. So yeah, that's certainly possible. But also wanted to say, I mean, of all the things that have been said, I think knowing your target audience and looking to engage that target audience is very important. Like Saf mentioned, you can't create stuff for 7 million. How many of us on this planet? 7 billion of us?
7 billion.
Yes, okay, billion, sorry. Yeah. So you need to know your target audience.
Yep. All right. So I guess personally, my takeaway from this is two stuff. I feel like the acronym that I made just now, as in like SAFE, still stands.
Yeah.
You need to be social. You need to have aesthetics, to have the functionality, and to also engage.
Yeah.
But you also want it to be simple and accessible. I think that's quite key as well. And then at the same time, because we can't design for everybody, 7 billion people, I wonder whether we could actually. That would be a good problem to solve. But that's just feeding into capitalism. And I guess
I would love to be proved wrong.
I guess
will this not solve the purpose for the 7 billion? Like, if you want to write,
yeah,
use a pencil.
Not all 7 billion can read and write yet.
Yeah, that's a problem, right?
Yeah. So then you're solving basic needs. Like, I guess the toilet is a good invention as well. Everyone needs to use it.
Yeah.
True. Then I guess the other. Yeah, and I guess the other takeaway is like depending on, you need to I guess think about who you're designing for, either people who knows what they want or people who doesn't know what they want. But ultimately, however you're designing it, I think you still need to target this SAFE kind of thing to make an impression as well. I did wanted to follow up on whether, if let's say it is this SAFE, this four key elements that makes an impression, do I need all at once, or do I need at least one to make an impression? And I think just now Saf was also mentioning about if you only solve a specific problem, or is it Shiranjit who mentioned that although you pitch, it could be something that's very ugly, but it functions, then it could also already make an impression, even if it's just an idea as well. So I guess that already sort of answer the fact that at least one of these four is catered to. You should already leave an impression. But that could be something that I explore a little bit later. All right. I personally already have my answer to I guess today's question. Does anyone else would like to add any takeaways you have from this conversation?
Just the one that you mentioned about that aesthetics at the end. I want to add one more thing, like human mind as it functions, it perceives something that looks good is useful. It's like the natural progression of human mind is if something looks good, that means you can rely on that. Like there are many studies that who have shown like a person who doesn't look good and person who looks good, and they've tried to match it at who is a criminal, who is not a criminal. So there are mixed evidences on all those grounds. So yeah, I think aesthetics plays a long game in this case to create the first impression. Even if something is functional or not functional, but if something looks good, people tend to move towards that thinking that, okay, this might be good. That's a different thing that after that they discover something else about it.
Yeah. I guess if we're talking about impression, these are the stuff that could be some of the key elements that needs to be catered to. So I guess aesthetics, when you're talking about aesthetics, we are not actually just talking about visuals, right? Because if let's say it's something physical and I'm blind, I can't see it, it would still be aesthetics for me to like touch and feel it, right?
And hear
And
it.
that could be impression as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would want to add is always question whether functionality sells. Like psychologically, does function sell?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think maybe to a group of people, function is key. Like everything about what they search in life is function first, but I would question the percentage of that group of people. Yeah, because me personally, function do not, engage me at all.
Because you already have all your basic needs catered to stuff. Now you can go out higher in the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Now you can go into like how to emotionally engage yourself, how to
Every time we want to rest on function, I say let's trigger the question: is this enough? Is function enough to sell?
I guess it depends on the function you're looking for.
Yeah, again, it depends on who you're designing for. What do the people actually need? Yeah.
Because basically, Saf's question just made me think, and I realized when I try to buy a phone, for example, what is the first thing that I look for in a phone? And for me, it's always
I'm thinking the same thing as Eddie. Phone doesn't sell.
yeah. For me, the first thing I look at whenever I look at the phone is how good is the camera, and then everything else is secondary, like performance, how long the battery lasts, all of those stuff are nice to, because at that point everything else becomes a nice to have, but not necessarily compulsory, right? So a phone that has a 1 week long battery life, I will still pick a phone that has a great camera over a phone that has a 1 week battery life. Like if someone were to somehow make a phone that would last for 1 week without you needing to charge it, but with a crappy camera.
Nokia.
Yeah,
I'll still pick a phone with it. Yeah, that's for me. That's for me, right? Because for me, if the camera is not up to par, then it doesn't matter to me. Your battery life doesn't matter to me. So again, it depends. It depends on what function is important to you, I guess.
Saf would like to challenge you. Yes, Saf.
Yeah.
I think it is true in terms of we would zoom into the specifications, right? But if you were to put it in comparison, what would make the last choice of that purchase? I would challenge that with that kind of comparison. Like if you were to put, the literal brick Nokia and then the what's good these days? The iPhone, I don't know, the iPhone, the Samsung, okay? Something that looks really different from each other, but functionality wise, let's make up that the Nokia brick has better functions. What will make, the last?
Interesting one. Yeah. As in like does the battery is the battery long lasting battery something that you prefer on top of aesthetics? All right, you know what? I'll leave that for you guys to stew on and ponder. I think there would be a whole lot of debate if I'm looking into this basic question of, again, if let's say it's just this SAFE. So now functionality against aesthetics. Okay, which one is more important? The kind of stuff, I think that's for another conversation, lah. If not, everyone's going to be starting to argue. Oh, but you need to socially engage them as well. I'm like, no. It's going to take another hour or maybe more.
Yeah.
I don't want to argue. I want to add something because I agree and disagree both. There is another aspect. I have friends who are not bothered about form. They are not bothered about aesthetics or functionality. So when it comes down to buying a phone, for example, they will say that, can I get a phone in just 500 ringgit? I just want to have a call. That's it. I don't want anything else. They don't go for specifications. I will say that, oh, you can go ahead with this. It has camera. It has those. And I don't need all those things. And this phone looks really good. I don't need even that. I just want to call. That's it. So it comes down to how much budget they have and what they want to buy, because they have that impression pre-built that any company in the market who is making a phone can make a phone. So if a phone is made, it has some basic functionality there. So I can just go ahead and buy something in 500 ringgit. I don't have to bother about all those things. So that's a completely separate mindset, a completely different lookout. What I want to make a point is, form and function is not form versus function. Like, it's not aesthetic versus functionality. It is aesthetic and functionality. It's always goes together. Because if you have a function of camera, if you have a function of the interface, the functionality is there. But to interact with that functionality, you need that form, that the switch needs to be up, it needs to be a touch panel or whatever it is. That interaction you can do only when you have a form. And that form itself, how you lay it out, it is circular, it is triangular, or whatever it is, that's the aesthetic part of it. Good or bad, that's a very personal opinion for different people. But you need the form and function together. You cannot leave one without the other.
All right. So it's an and, not an or then. I wanted to explore that further, but okay. Right.
Awesome.
I am good for today's conversation. Does anyone else would like to add anything else on top of what Shanjit said? If not, I think that's some good stuff for a Sunday morning.
Yeah. I think I learned quite a lot. Got a few very useful insights today.
Very interesting. Different mindsets, different perspective on the product, different thoughts around designs and all these things.
Yeah. Maybe perhaps in our next get together, we'll start critiquing different products, and then maybe we'll observe something else. Then maybe that time it is actually really functionality against aesthetics. Maybe it's just one or the other.
I like the mix. I like the five of us. Like, we do come from different perspectives.
Yeah, correct. Because
I need to make any if I need to make any any decoration or any aesthetical changes in my house or anywhere else, I tend to go to Saf's Instagram blog and see what he's.
You're biased.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the first impression, maybe.
You have a market that you're catering to, stuff. Yeah. Think about that. All right. Thanks. I think we can definitely do another round of discussion on this by looking at different stuff now, like something that's new to all of us, and then making our first impression, critiquing, and then observe whether the conclusion that we come to today still holds. There'll be something interesting to work on, a little exercise for everyone. Perhaps another round.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes. Thank you very much for joining me on a Sunday morning. That is us talking about first impressions, how to impress. I think, as what we were saying, I think we did come to a plateau. As in, like, I feel like for me, my takeaway was still the same. So, but we'll explore that further for the next round once I've reflected on this and then have more questions perhaps. Feel free to share with me if you have any questions from the conversations that you had this morning as well. Hopefully it's not too heavy for you on a Sunday. Maybe church is heavier, Eddie. I don't know what to look at. All right.
Sure.
Thank you everyone for joining me today. Have a good rest of the Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much for having us.
Bye, guys. Have fun.
Bye.